Hi, everybody.
Hey, welcome along.
Welcome, infinite beings, back to the Infinite Me, where we're talking about everything to do with living an infinite life. And you don't have to wake into your powers. You already have them. You're already infinite. We've just forgotten most of the time who we truly are. And so we're here to talk about all things to do with living that life, embodying that, and playing with everything that comes with that.
Woo-hoo.
So I am Mandy, and over there is Nat. Yes, we are sisters. Yes.
Still sisters.
Yes. So yesterday we was kind of a part 2 conversation of a topic that we originally started talking about on the 14th of August, which was called unconditional love versus rescuing. So yesterday we just dove a little bit deeper into that conversation that we didn't get to sort of finish off about what it looks like to when you've got a lot of drama kind of going on around you, I guess people that are trying to pull you into their drama, and especially loved ones, like particularly close family and friends. And then how do you stay living your life consciously and not get pulled into their drama, and also support them at the same time? So what does that actually look like? How does that show up? How do you manage that? What does that actually reflect back to you? So check out yesterday's conversation, as we said, part 2 of that conversation. So today we're going to go back to the infinite lucky dip that we started. Oops, where is it? This.
Yep, there you
Infinite
go.
lucky dip that we started maybe 3 days ago. I don't know, but we only did 1 day of it. So we're back to that. So the idea is that we don't know what topic we're going to talk about today. So we're just going to draw. We've thrown a few topics in there, obviously, but we don't know which one we're going to pull out today to talk about. So it's
what's it going to be today?
Right, look.
Here we go.
Okay, what's an orange one?
Orange one. Here we go. And it is.
Oh, you can't make freedom outside of you.
I don't want to talk about that. No.
I'll put it back in. Put it back in. Should we get one we like?
Anything for that.
So the idea of this one, I wrote this one because the idea came from. I was listening to 𝘾𝙤𝙣𝙨𝙘𝙚𝙀𝙁, who is a comedian turned transformational teacher, and he was talking about this idea of we're all wanting freedom. Like when you ask people most of the time about why they want money or why they want that job or why they want, that lifestyle, it's usually because they think it's going to give them freedom. And he was making this point about that freedom can never be an external thing. It can never come from something else. It has to be an internal state that you feel regardless of your outside circumstances. So as long as you're making it outside of you, you'll never attain freedom, like because you make it mean X amount of money or this type of circumstance happening outside of you, and it's always putting your power outside of you. So if you're wanting that internal state of freedom, it has to come, as you said, like that that freedom that you're chasing is a feeling inside of you. So it has to be generated from the inside. You have to feel that through you.
Yeah, I think you hit on it there. It's the feeling that you're seeking. It's not we don't want money just for the sake of money. We want money because it makes us feel something. So or health or anything really, good relationship, like they all make us, we're feeling human beings, so that all makes us feel something. So that's actually what we're chasing, is the feeling of freedom, rather than the physical attribution that causes that. But it is interesting too, because I think we will have seen it, everyone will have seen this either in their own life or they would have observed it in others, that it's never enough. Like that is always the premise of the ego, is that I am not enough, and therefore I keep seeking more and more and more and more stuff to make me feel fulfilled.
Yes.
And everyone will be able to relate to that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's sort of like, no matter how much money you get, and it's sort of almost frustrating at times when you see like multimillionaires that go, oh, I still need to make more money. Like I haven't got quite enough for my lifestyle now. Yeah. It's like, are you serious? Like, okay. But it's like, when is it ever enough? And I guess there's a point, because we're also expanding. So if you become a millionaire, then you expand to the next level yourself, which might be $10 million. And so you start to want that sort of lifestyle. So our natural progression as human beings is to want to expand because that's who we are. At the end of the day, we're infinite, and that is the expansiveness and the space. And so that's what we're actually looking for again. But we start going looking for it in more money, more better relationships, more health, like all these different things. We run ourselves ragged trying to get these things on the outside world, and then it's like still not fulfilled. Oh my God, I still need more money. Oh my God, my health's still not good. I need to go to the gym actually twice a day now because I need to build bigger muscles and lose more weight. So that's never enough. I need more friends in my space because I don't have enough. Like all these things, it's sort of like never enough. And I think we might as well all just sit here and acknowledge right now it's never going to be enough in any of those things because that's the nature of the ego.
And the ego is looking for, like, if you say equate freedom is earning $10,000 a month, say, like that's your idea of freedom. You're currently earning $2,000 a month, and 10,000 to you represents absolute freedom. If I just had that, I would feel free. But then you sort of see people that then attain that, and then they're like, well, now they're afraid of losing that thing as well. So it kind of goes in the other way. It's like it is never enough because you're always then afraid of losing it. So I need to get more. So that could be in relationship status too. Like people, once they get to like a very, comfortable place in a relationship and they feel really good, they're afraid then of losing that person. And it becomes then about trying to keep it so that, you don't lose this perfect thing that you've got. So that idea of freedom again is always outside of you.
True.
Whereas, just closing, something popped up. Yes, so that if it is outside of you, then there is always a potential to lose it. Like it's absolutely a possibility that you can lose something in the outside world. Whereas if it's a feeling state coming from within you, the same as like inner peace or something like that, it's nobody could take that away from you, regardless of what happens. You look at people like Nelson Mandela and people like that were in prison for however many years, and he was still able to maintain that sense of inner freedom for himself. And nobody could ever take that away from him. The only way, I guess, is if he died. That would be the only way that he would, but then he'd be an infinite spirit anyway, and it wouldn't matter.
Freedom.
So it is like, we hear that, like it sounds like a bit of a platitude at times that the freedom, it has to be an inside job sort of thing, but it's so true. Like it is something we have to cultivate within ourselves. So I guess in the context of how we talk about things with this infinite feeling that moves through us, to me, in like stepping into that space and listening to that voice, and is that sense of inner freedom, because it's ultimately taking you to the thing that's going to make you feel really fulfilled. And that sense of fulfillment to me is what we're probably all seeking. Like that's when we kind of feel free from the pullings of everyone around us, when we just feel fulfilled by what we're doing in the world, whatever that is, that activity, or it's a job, or it's a career, or it's a relationship, or any number of those things at the same time. But when we're stepping into that and feeling fulfilled, then we often find that the money comes anyway, or the better relationships come, because we're in that state of not needing it outside of us. We're whole and complete as we are, and we feel free to do whatever we want to do in the world.
So interesting, isn't it? Like I think I've run into this a fair bit, because I'm going to put this out there, not from an ego standpoint, but Jodie and I probably to you as well, men, to some degree, live the ultimate lifestyle that I won't say most people, a lot of people aspire to. Traveling the world, staying in different locations. Right now I'm in Paris, about to go to Belgium, just came from Malaysia. Just that sense of just, you often hear people say, I just want to be wherever I want to be with whoever I want to be with for as long as I like, and just float around and do whatever I like type thing. And it's like, oh, it's interesting. Like, because when we started living this lifestyle, and we've been living it for like 6 or 7 years now, just traveling literally full time all over the world, staying in incredible places, really. And it's sort of like, I know from my own journey, like when I started living this lifestyle, there was still a part of me that didn't actually feel that freedom. Like I would still wake up and think, oh, it's Monday morning, I have to get work done. Like there was just all these constructs of the outside world were still there, because they come from a career. So I didn't feel that sense of freedom for a long time, and I probably still don't to some degree, sort of thing like this. I'm still working on that. Different things will come up, and it's like, oh, I don't feel 100% free to do whatever I like, sort of thing. Like I still feel the constraints of money at times come up, or health. I might injure myself. I've had a few injuries lately that have stopped me from getting out and about and doing things that have been to do with my feet. And it's like, oh, it's really interesting. Like, so there's still those constructs of not feeling free. But what it's done is made me sort of go back in and realize, yeah, it has to come from the inside. It doesn't matter what lifestyle somebody's living.
Yeah.
If they're not free in their mind and in their inner sense of self, then there is still no freedom.
Yes.
It really does. And I just had a direct experience of that over the years. And it's like, it's so true. But,
and the things that usually are running us are still, most of the time, is just actual stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah, it's not programming and stuff. That's still,
so it's not even a lot of the time the outside circumstance, although it might show up, as that, and that's usually because we're holding on to that belief. So the outside reality is showing up as what we're holding on to still. So the areas that we're not feeling free in is still the areas that we've still got a lot of power, hidden in those stories and constructs that we've constructed for ourselves as well. So there are always just opportunities, as we've talked about before, to sort of take your power back out of those. So so I think I had brought up maybe 2 or 3 weeks, probably a bit longer now, about that, the construct of time. That was definitely something that I did not feel free in that area around time. That felt like it kind of ran me to some degree in terms of my belief system around how long it would take to put an idea out into the world. So I just sort of shut it down before I would even put it out there, because it was just this sense of, oh my God, it's going to take forever, and it might not work, and it'd be such a waste of time. So there was all these stories running around, never having enough time, being late for things, always rushing a deadline. Heaps and heaps of stories around time. So that, there's definitely no sense of freedom in that respect. In majority of the time, I would say, for me. But that was just slowly something that was coming up for me to see, and letting go of that. So I would say more and more now that the time is just not, it's not running me to the degree it definitely was. So there is a lot more freedom around that feeling now. So even just with this project, the Infinite Me, that we're working on now, and the way that we're evolving it, if you like, it's there is no, well, I have moments of kind of thinking, oh, we should get this done by a certain time, but then I'm just completely letting go of that as well, and just really leaning back into the feeling, I guess, that's moving through. Just like, no, it doesn't matter about the time. It's just about following this feeling right now and trusting that that's taking me wherever it's going to take me. And as soon as I do that, that sense of freedom just opens up. So it is just a construct in my mind around the time. There's nobody that, the infinite consciousness doesn't care about time. There is no construct of time in the infinite space. So it's only the little ego that's telling us that we have to get things done by that time. So it is a story, it just gets reflected in our outside society to make it look like we have all these deadlines and things like that. But it's not true at the end of the day. Like, the more we can detach ourselves from that and just go with our own sense of inner timing, it just feels, that's, to me, is one sense of freedom that I can have started to kind of feel a lot more in my life anyway. So
it's sort of, from my story and your story, it's almost like you still got to find, well, you don't find freedom in the outside world. You use the outside world to reflect back to you the patterns and the programs and the beliefs that are actually sitting internally, to then dive into, well, not necessarily like process and dive into, but to bring your attention to those particular programs and beliefs that you're still holding on to, which then reflect back out. So it's like this inner back out again, to then have freedom in your outer world as well. So it can only ever reflect what's going on for you internally. But you use the outside world to have that reflection in the first place. Do what you need to do with it, process it, sit with it, give it space, allow it to dissipate the energy of, because they're all just energy at the end of the day. All these beliefs and programs are just energetic entities sitting there. And then once they dissipate, then your outside world will shift accordingly to bring more freedom in the outside world as well. So it looks as if you've got this ultimate freedom in the outside world. But that sense of freedom inside definitely is something that once you have it, you can't have it taken away from you. Only you can give it away. Give your power away back to something in the outside world again that seemingly has control over you. But you control that. Like nothing has control over you. You just allow it to have power over you.
I'd say a lot of this comes from like our obviously childhood too, and how you perceive the outside world. Then so the filters that you start to see see life through. So I'm just thinking of like our mum in particular, and the way that she kind of operates is very much around having to get everything done and handled and under control. There's definitely a control factor going on all the time. So we grew up probably in quite a busy household with there's 4 of us, and then mum also used to mind little kids. So it was kind of like we had all these little kids in our household as we were growing up too, all Monday to Friday. And so mum had to be obviously very disciplined and very, to get stuff done. So I always just had this sense of like everything was always rushed kind of thing. It always there's this sense of rushing all the time, and also just doing things to keep things under control. So there wasn't really a lot of kind of energy put into like interaction with us or the kids. It was kind of just, I just got to get this done because then everything will be handled and everything will be under control and everyone will eat and everyone will get the washing done. So there's always that about the outside structure, if you like, rather than the actual connection or the relationships as such. So I think I grew up, and probably you did to some degree too, like with this sense of like, you just got to rush all the time and get everything done, and that's the only way you can kind of live your life. And so I had to kind of really look at that a bit too and just slow down. There's a lot of judgment around like that's the only, like there was also a resistance to being like things taking up time too. So there was definitely like I hated the fact that the time was running me, but then I would just fall into that. Like it was just such a natural way of being, but I resented it so much. Like it was kind of, if I could just stop it sort of thing, like it was always that sense of that. And I even had, the friend 𝘾𝙤𝙨 that we've spoken about before that does the intuitive readings from Bondi Guru. And she had said to me one time, you got to stop playing this time game. And I was like, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. Like it was the ego is obviously saying, how do I do that? Like it was, and I remember for years, I just didn't actually understand what she meant by that. Like it was kind of frustrating because it was just like, how do you just stop letting time run you? Like it was, to me, it was showing up a lot as like being slightly late for things all the time and like rushing all the time to get to somewhere and meeting a deadline and just making it and things like that. And but sort of just observed back, I guess, over childhood and saying, well, that was kind of every day. Like that's how life was. It was always this catch up and running late for things. And as a kid, it wasn't anything to do with me running late. It was like mum running late. So we just got caught in. We got caught into that because then we had to go with her to wherever we were going. So that sort of just became like a normal thing. But then I hated it because I wanted to be free from that. I didn't, and I think I obviously had seen the life that mum had sort of created and the belief structure she had around that, and I was just like, I don't want to be like that. Like everyone often says, I don't want to be like my mother. Like you sort of, I'm doing whatever I can to avoid being like that, and you end up being like that because you've just got that automatic, the subconscious programming that goes on. That Bruce Lipton talks about this a lot in his biology of belief, and various other sort of talks he does now around how that conditioning is programmed into us from that years 0 to 7. Like that's the age that we're just in that sponge mode where we're just observing and taking in stuff from our outside world, and we form that's how we form the constructs of our world based on what we see. So around money, relationships, time, as we said, health, your approach to food, all that kind of stuff gets formed. And it doesn't mean you can't override that and start looking at that as you get older, but it's quite hard to undo it because it becomes a subconscious program. It's a program in your brain, and it's quite an automatic thing. So unless you start bringing the awareness to it, like what we've just been talking about, and for me, this time thing really came up in my face probably about a month ago, probably slightly more, where it was really exaggerated on the outside, like these circumstances that were coming up are just taking up so much time. And I was getting so frustrated with it because I really wanted to jump into this project. And we did a really good talk around this. I don't know the date, but it was called Time After Time. I think we did 2 talks around time, actually. So they've got time in the title. So if you went back and searched for that, you'd find them. But yeah, but it was just such an interesting topic, how the outside world just kind of starts to reflect things really exaggerated so that you start to see it and bring the awareness to it. And it starts to fall away just sometimes by bringing just the awareness to it. Is sometimes enough, but then other times you do have to do a little bit more sort of conscious work around just keep telling yourself the truth of what's happening and reclaiming your power out of that. Yeah, reclaiming your power out of the stories over and over, and especially if it is a paradigm that's really run you for a lot of your life, like this one had, definitely.
I think it's a big one, the time one. So many people get caught in it, and I think you inadvertently get caught in it. You're probably more caught in it than anybody realizes. Like especially in the Western world. So interesting for me how that showed up. Like it's so interesting you to say the rushing thing. Like I hadn't really thought about that before, but it's true. Like if I think about childhood and I think about mom, it's always rushing.
Yeah,
everything's always in a rush,
even to this day.
Yeah, even to this day, and I do have a sense of that, a really strong sense of that. So it was interesting to go to different countries like Mexico, even here in France, where they take an afternoon nap and everything shuts down and everyone has a long lunch and a bottle of wine, and if you get back to work, that's great. If you don't, well, so be it. The whole lifestyle thing is so different. And it took me a long time to really, like I really liked it as soon as I saw it, but it was so foreign to me. I was just like, I guess because I come from a Western country, you know, Australia just doesn't do anything like that. It's always 9 to 5, go, go, go. You're lucky to leave your desk for lunch. But also just, I guess, that overlaying sense of rushing all the time that I hadn't really thought about from childhood. But yes, this whole sense of just, it's just so different, you know, like the whole lifestyle idea, and everything's so slow paced and everyone has time to talk to each other and spend time with the family. And I don't know, it's really different. And it's like, holy crap, like this is actually how most people live. The majority of the world, well, certainly in Spanish speaking countries, like I don't know where that ever first came from, but the Spanish speaking countries seem to have it all sewn up in terms of, and the French.
A lot of the Mediterranean, I was going to say, like the, you know, Italy and places like that, very much similar to that.
It's very slow paced, very family orientated, very friend orientated. Everyone just sits around, like here in Paris and stuff, like everybody, you know, at all hours of the day, people are just sitting having coffees and relaxing and just people observing and all that sort of stuff. Like it's such a different culture. It's like, wow, okay, this is a cool way to live. I like this. But it has taken a long time to be okay with that.
Yes.
And yeah, it has a lot to do with that.
I would say even us moving to Tasmania in Australia as well, it's quite different to other states in Tasmania, in Australia. So particularly we came from Sydney, being probably the busiest, you know, city in Australia, and then probably got Melbourne and places like that outside of it. But the culture is that very much go, 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 like it is in a lot of Western countries. And coming to Tasmania was just that real sense of having a lifestyle, like people just worked usually Monday to Friday. I'm sure there are some people that do overtime, but there doesn't seem to be that many of them. Like they kind of just really take their lifestyle for, not going to say for granted, it's I guess a priority, but I think it just came out of the, I'm going to say necessity is not the right word, but I think because Tasmania is quite a small population, it's a regional kind of area. It's a little bit detached from the bigger cities, so it doesn't have that same sense of size and all the stuff that comes with it, that too, you know, like all the infrastructure and the amount of people and things like that that come with it too. So people just kind of built a culture around what was needed. So like there isn't a sense of needing to do a lot of overtime because maybe there's not the population to warrant, you know, doing the extra time or things like that. So it's just, things like that. So it sort of was just born out of, I guess, the population here. Yeah, like, so it wasn't like a, you know, maybe a choice, a conscious choice, but it has become that way. And so you come here and you just feel like you slow down. So my husband in particular, when he went back into a job down here after being in Sydney and working for a pretty intense company in terms of their ethic around hard work. They were Armenian background, had a very, you know, strong view of working really hard. And so when Andrew went into job down here and he was struggling to kind of like make the work last for the whole day. So everyone was like, slow down, you're working too fast. And he's just like, this is my normal pace. Like, you're all working really slow. Like, and it was just, he was so not used to just like, you know, slowing it down to like what would be probably a normal pace. And I mean, maybe they're a little bit slower, you know, down here, they probably take advantage of it a little bit too. But there was that sense of like, he really struggled for probably a good year to not feel guilty about not pushing through work faster and all that stuff. So all that construct that it just shows up, all that construct that you have for yourself around those ideas of hard work, and you have to work hard or you have to work fast and to get things done. So all those stories. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be around time. It can be money. It can be to do with relationships or connection, how connections are formed or things. So it's, everyone has their own sort of thing that kind of runs them most of the time. And, you know, you don't feel free in that area because the stories run you, like definitely run you, and you don't know how to break free from them a lot of the time. So there is that push-pull going on a little bit, like I was just talking about before, where there was a sense of being aware of having to keep doing that thing, like rush, but also resenting it too, like knowing it wasn't the truth maybe on some level, but not knowing how to break free from it. So that can often be a sign too, I guess, of maybe an area of life that's really running you too, when you're feeling that pull a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, you've still got that transition period from old beliefs and patterns, and then as you're waking up and going through the conscious process sort of thing, you're seeing different patterns that you've got, or you're observing it in somebody else even, and going, oh, actually, I'm a bit like that. Then there is that sort of lag period, I guess, that happens in reality. And I guess if we're looking at the process, like I was just saying before, it's sort of thing, the time that it takes to observe either your own life or somebody else's, for it to come internal, for you to see it yourself and sort of process whatever's gone on, and then for it to then reform itself into create a new reality. Then there can be a little bit of a lag, frustration period, like you were going through with the time stuff.
Shifting to a new way of being.
It's shifting, it's still shifting. And I guess that's the time period where we don't feel free, and we start to get in there and wanting to change the outside world because it's not changing fast enough. And so we get caught in the cycle then of trying to fix, change, or improve what's already out there. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. You have to change the inside. You have to get the freedom inside and go through the process of what's going on, not just brushing it off either, going, oh, I seem to have an issue with time, and then not dealing with it internally. Just observing it all the time. And then, I mean, that can be enough to shift stuff, but if it's something's really deep-seated, like it was for you, like it was a really core program that was running, it does take time to actually look at it, and you have to put time and effort into seeing where it's showing up, observing it, bringing attention to it. And it just takes time, some of those things, to then reform itself in the outside world. But I think that caught in the middle period is where we tend to get frustrated, and it's not changing fast enough. So I'll get in there and I'll fix it.
Or we end up going back to, like, we get or sometimes we can kind of give up, if you like, sometimes too, on making changes. So maybe this is where sometimes we fall down in changing a habit or something, because we're not seeing the results that we think we should be getting by the time we're investing in that thing. And so maybe we quit just at the, like the time where it's just about to take a hold, and it's kind of that thing of just like that 11th hour. Sometimes that's when the shifts come in, but we just got to hold out and keep keep reminding ourselves of what's the truth of the situation, and maybe things beneath the surface are shifting around and we just can't see them with our physical eyes, but we think nothing's happening. Like the ego wants to tell us that nothing's happening, so that we don't keep pursuing that thing that's actually going to give us the freedom that we're actually looking for. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it definitely is. So what would you say is, like, what does it look like, if you can even explain it? Like inner freedom, what does that feel like or look like, do you think? Feel?
Yeah. Well, that's probably an interesting word, you're saying think, because I think there is like a lack of thinking that goes with the inner freedom. Like the thinking stops a lot. Like, it's not to say you still don't obviously have thoughts that pop up all the time, but they're always going to be there. But it's definitely the frequency of those drops away, and or you don't even pay attention to them. So it's, I guess, like you hear people say in meditation. I actually haven't done meditation as such, so, but hearing what you hear people talk about when you sit there and just observe the thought and not attach to the thought, just let it pass through, and then it may come up again 100 times, but it's just that sense of eventually you just don't attach to the thought anymore. So it might still go through your mind, but you don't give it any power anymore because the story is not there around it. So to me, it feels like that. The stories just fall away and you don't engage the thought. So it may still cross your mind, but you don't engage it.
It sort of passes through, doesn't it? Like it's sort of...
Yeah, it doesn't have the power over you anymore to direct your actions or your decisions like it used to, kind of thing.
You might even laugh at it. Like, that would be the ultimate. It was like, oh, that was great. A funny thought.
To see how you used to kind of respond to that thing. Like it is quite laughable at times to see, and even just the tricks that the ego will try to get up to almost convince you to go back into that way of being, all the different far-fetched stories that you can come up with, imagination around that as well. But I think the inner freedom part too looks like just making decisions a lot quicker too. Like it feels like something moves through you and you just feel it's true and you do it. Like you don't question it. Whereas I would probably sit on decisions a lot of the time and sort of weigh up all the options and then feel like I was in this space of indecision and feeling confused. Like that was often a state that I would get myself into, this confusion state. And that to me feels like that has dropped away a lot. That inner sense of freedom comes through now of just feeling quite clear on decisions now and where I want to go with things, and the feeling that's moving through me to act on. It just feels like it flows a lot easier and I can hear it easier. So that all of those things kind of line up, I think. Yeah. How about you? How do you think it shows up or feels?
It feels like space. It really does have a sense of nothingness to it.
Yeah.
And often I crave that. Like if there's a lot going on around the outside sort of thing, like I'll just go, and for me, stillness is one thing. Like, and maybe it's because I'm rushing around all the time.
I would say that too.
I often feel like, and I say this to Jody sometimes, I just need to stop for a while. Like I've got to stop moving my body and I've just got to lay down and just stop. And so once I do that and give myself that gift, it's almost like it automatically just opens up a sense of nothingness and a sense of space. So there's definitely that element to it. Not a lot. I agree. The thoughts come in and out a lot more, sort of thing. Like just don't even really engage them. It's just a passing through type thing. So you might observe some of that. It's a stillness and a space, I think, more than anything else. And it's sort of interesting, like when you think about, engaging this whole idea of being infinite. Like the first thing that might come up for people is, oh, I can manifest whatever I like. Like I could manifest $1 million. I could go into a store and take a Ferrari and not pay for it. Like all this stuff that's sort of like, well, that's pretty infinite. It's all me and I can do whatever the hell I like. And in going through Bob Scheinfeld's work, which we did many years ago now, with Busting Loose from the Money Game. So it was that was the program, went for 4 days, and it was very much about money. because that's obviously the sticking point for most people. So it was a really good marketing hook as well as a good message. So going to that, a lot of people I feel went in, and maybe I did too, go into that program and sort of think, oh, I can do whatever the bloody hell I like type thing. And a lot of people came out of that program feeling that that's what they could do. And it was so interesting to observe almost the ego take hold of some of these concepts and go, oh, yay, we get to really play. We can treat people like shit. We can eat as much food as we like and not get fat. I can just rip people off and not pay for shit, like all this stuff. And it's like, oh my God, like, I think everybody sort of needed to land a little bit after that program because the ego, not for everybody, I'm not saying this for everybody, but I certainly observed it in a few people that I knew and in myself that went just ballistic. Like, and it's sort of quite interesting now to revisit pretty much that concept of, yes, you are infinite already, but not feel like it has to create $1 million tomorrow and buy houses and just do all this stuff type thing. Like it's almost disappointing because there's just a nothingness. It's quite fascinating. I've not really talked to you about this, but I think it's actually quite interesting now it's coming up. That sense of infiniteness actually is a very neutral, very nothingness sort of feeling.
And that's what the ego is afraid of. Like it doesn't want to judges that as boring, and that's what it will probably tell us because it knows it's death to the ego if it's like if you go into that nothingness. But that there is definitely a sense of freedom with that sort of thing, that space, and just a knowingness, I think, more than anything. Like that freedom to me is a knowingness that you are the infinite and you're 100% connected to that energy all the time. And then that itself is freedom. That is freedom. Because you can't want for anything. You can't be hurt in any way when you really feel into the truth of that. Like, yes, you can be physically, you can fall over or be shot or something, you can get physically hurt. But as far as your sense of being, nothing can touch that. And I guess that was the feeling that Mandela sort of felt, is like, it doesn't matter what happens in here, like in jail, you know, whether I get bashed or starved or just go completely insane almost from just being in solitary for, 20 something years, whatever it was. It's like you just have a knowing that nothing can touch that middle part of you. And that's freedom. And nothing in the outside world, no one can ever touch that. So that really is that very, very core sense of freedom. That I feel we're all wanting, because that's who we truly are. So we're always wanting to gravitate back towards that feeling. But we go looking for it in the outside world because we feel like we're going to get it from there. And I feel I still do get tripped up. Sort of interesting, actually, like, say with money, if I was having, like, say $10,000 a month come in, like you were just talking about type thing, like, what does that feel like to me? Like, I can ask myself, what does that feel like? And that feels like a sense of freedom, definitely. Like, there's this expansiveness to that. And it's like, oh, I could literally do what I wanted to do, whatever I want to do today. Like, I could go, take a trip, fly somewhere, go and have the biggest slap up meal in Paris, like whatever I wanted to do. So there's definitely a freedom in that. And so I get it. Like when people talk about the money aspect and stuff, it's like, or if you don't have money, you feel like I can't go and do those things. So suddenly there's this restriction. Definitely. But at the end of the day, if I feel into it and go, I can sit here right now and feel what it would feel like to have $10,000 in my bank account right now, or $1 million in my bank account right now. So if I can feel what that feels like already without actually having those things, then the feeling is with me. It's not from those things. Definitely. Because I can already feel that. So that's helped over the years to sort of go, oh, it's actually here right now, that freedom, because I can tap into it. I could stay in that state for the rest of the day if I wanted to, feeling that feeling. If that's all I'm trying to get to is that feeling from having $1 million, then I've already got it. because that's what we're usually after anyway. At the end of the day, is the experience that we think that thing is actually going to give us.
Yeah.
But we don't really identify that it's the feeling. We think it's the thing that's going to give us the freedom. So yes, okay, maybe having more money, and not to say that that won't actually give you a bit more of a sense of freedom, but it's then there's other things that come with that too, because we then start to attach value to that, or as we said before, like you're afraid of losing it, then you start to get all these other things start to happen, or you do go on a bit of a spending spree because now I can spend all this stuff, and thinking that might bring you fulfillment. So if you don't have like the awareness around it, it often will still look like it's outside of you all the time, and still chasing that freedom and that fulfillment. Like it doesn't bring you the things that I think it would, unless you have the awareness around it. So it's not to say you can't have more money and feel the freedom that will come with that, because it's not outside of you. It is just a means of another way to express yourself and to show up in the world and have fun with it too. So there is a way of it's a consciousness that you bring to it. Yeah, that is the difference, I think.
Yeah,
how free you feel with things, anything, as you said.
Yeah. It's not that you can't have those things. It's just that you're not putting your power into those things when they do come. You knew that it came from your infinite self, and that the money's not even really there. Like the body's not there, so you're not really having health as such. Like you're just experiencing what is your natural state, which is abundance and health and all those vitality and thriving and all that. So that's who you are.
Yes.
So you're just actually having an experience of that in reality, and it happens to show up in the form of money.
Yes.
Or the shows up in a great body, or feeling really healthy, or whatever. It's like, it has to come here and express somehow. So it's just expressing in that form.
Yes. I know Abraham Hicks talk about that a lot in the channeled, messages and things, about that idea of feeling the way that the feeling state of how you think you're going to be by having what you want. If you can feel that now, and you hold that vibration, and you keep practicing that vibration, then that's the thing that brings the manifestation to you on the outside, because you come to know yourself as that feeling and as that experience. So as long as that's still outside of you and feeling separate, that's when it usually doesn't show up, in your reality, because it's still outside of you. So you can, so the more you can feel that feeling and know it as you, is what will bring it then in the outside world. Is just more things to play with, more experience to have.
True.
How it shows up.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah, you embody that feeling itself. Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
There you go. That's freedom.
Freedom.
Yes. That's where it is.
Yes.
Very cool.
Let us know in the comments how, I don't know, how you feel around freedom, what the freedom looks like for you from that inner sense of freedom, how that shows up for you, what that feels like in your body. That'd be interesting.
It'd be interesting to hear people's different things. Everyone's going to feel it quite differently, but I guess there'll be same sort of senses. But it'd be interesting to see what you actually do feel. How do you feel physically? Do you feel it in a part of your body? Does it? Does it have a particular sensation or whatever? Like, it's cool. That stuff. Awesome. All right. Well,
thanks for joining us.
Go be free. Be free.
Yes.
You're already free.
And join us tomorrow for another conversation from the Lucky Dip. I'll see what we're talking about.
The Lucky Dip conversation. That was a good one today. These are quite fun. I actually just wrote a few others down while we were talking.
There's lots more.
So I've got a few more to add to it actually now from today's discussion. So I guess as we talk more stuff, we'll keep sparking with different things. Like, oh, that's a good topic.
Yeah.
We'll fill that bag up.
Yes.
No end. Very good. Infinite number of things to talk about.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll see you again tomorrow.
Okay. Bye.
Alrighty. Play infinitely now.
Bye.